It must be just like so great to be back in your hometown. And when SETC was planning this, I sit on the board and I was like, A, we got to get somebody black here, and B, they need to be from Baltimore. And I'm so glad that they went with you to invite you for this keynote.
It is my mission to fill small spaces with enormous beauty. The space I want to fill is your heart. Thank you, and I'm aware of the love. I felt it. I continue to feel it. Mm-hmm. I responded to it, which is why I spoke the way I did, as opposed to going up on the stage to the lectern, to the podium. That was much too formal, much too distant, although I would still be close to the audience. The perspective was not intimate. So I thought, let me stay here, right with the people. I spend too much time on the stage. I want to hang out with my peeps.
Did you make that decision on a whim?
I wouldn't call it a whim, no. But when we're sitting in the first row, and Stephen spoke from the podium, and then, what's the lady's name? Yolanda spoke from the podium, and then Stephen gestured for me to come up to the stage, and that's when I pointed to the mic and said, "No, let me have the mic, because this is where I should be, with my people."
Absolutely.
That's all.
Yeah. I love that, right? Because when we get to do the thing that we call art and playing, right, and creating, sometimes there's this relationship to the thing that we're creating that almost takes us out of being with people.
Right, exactly.
And playing into that, yeah.
I've done some teaching in my life. And what I learned, which is essential to the discipline, the art, and the responsibility of teaching, is that if the teacher isn't also a student, then there's a huge error being made in the process of education. So I have to learn from all of those folks that were in that auditorium as I'm speaking to them. Obviously, I didn't write a speech. I had no notes. So I had to be as vulnerable, as available, and as unknowing as the people in the audience.
I thought it was very clear that you really just led with, how is the room responding right now?
Exactly.
And what's it asking of you?
Exactly.
Right.
Right.
So exciting.
Yeah,
it's so exciting.
Being a vessel and a conduit for that, and like what you said about the griot, and then sitting us down in the middle of that and having that little good old fireside chat. I said, "Oh, you just gonna drop some tea on with the principals."
It's so necessary because we are taught that we don't know very much or anything at all. We are taught that we are intellectually, emotionally, spiritually inferior. We are taught that there are certain levels, heights, echelons to which we can never achieve simply on the basis of the melanin in our skin. Which is why when I got to that moment, I said, I am not your slave.
I'm not your fucking slave.
Oh, okay. You're going to quote me.
Yeah. We do.
I'm not your fucking slave. And then immediately I thought, that's divisive, if I don't include the white people too, because they're nobody's slave also. And I think most of the people got much of the message.
I'd say so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you had the room standing up, clapping, you know?
Right.
And that's what you want, a little call and response, right? Because that
Right.
lets you, in the moment, really feel like, oh, no, I'm not just saying something to a room to avoid. You're really connecting with people, and people are able to connect to your dots, too.
Right.
That's all they came in the room for. I
Right.
hope.
Right. I felt that people were looking for a homily, a ministry, a sermon. So I delivered what can be received as scripture, but exegeted. Right? It's like clear, plain, succinct. You understand what I'm saying?
Completely boiled down.
Yeah.
Very sharp.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
And across generations,
Yeah.
is something I noticed that you felt very strategic. I was like, you are time traveling through this speech and who you're talking to and who you're trying to reach.
Right.
And like period was the best example of that. and the reaction was so clear
Right.
as to why those tactic works. But
Right.
it's like you said, you're a living archive of thought in the zeitgeist. So yeah, just
Yeah. So good. I'm glad it resonated.
Completely.
8 down.
Yeah.
My first question, like, that's actually centered towards this interview is actually, like, we really just were interested in, like, what's bringing you joy. Transparently, as another, like, Black queer person who's living with HIV, I'm always trying to, like, find what those are for, like, the people in the world that are really coded as quote-unquote successful, right? And I'm like, how are they able to... Because it's not just your success, like your Tony speech, right? Like you're embodying joy in your life.
Right.
And I'm interested in like how you're prioritizing that and what brings it to you.
I'm prioritizing joy by recognizing that I have lived for 3/4 of a century, which is why I talk about breaking the Methusaleh code. And at age 79, my life continues to expand. It's not easy, nor do I expect it to be easy. But in terms of the tools that I need to have at my immediate disposal, I'm not talking about invincibility, but I must be unbelievably resilient, strong, self-determining, consistent, structured, disciplined, because that's where the rewards come from.
Do you feel like you find joy in things that don't even give you a reward? Do you find that joy is the reward that sort of supersedes all other things? I'm just in this space of really trying to figure out what that is for everybody.
Joy, like beauty, like calm, like peace, is not to be found. It is to be, when I talked about the purpose of life, it is not to find yourself, it is to create yourself.
Absolutely.
That's the same thing with joy. Don't look for joy. Don't seek joy. Create it.
Just conjure it on up.
Yeah. Conjure it up. Right.
Just be receptive, like you said,
Yeah.
too, right? Just open the channel to receive.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because another lesson that I continue to learn is that there is such a thing as balance. And that balance is the fuel, if you will, of the universe. Gratitude and generosity. The universe is generous. We must be grateful. And that's what keeps the abundance of the cornucopia flowing.
Hands out, heart open.
I was about to say, because it brings an awareness to what you're doing, so you're not flippant about any of the things that do come to us.
Right, exactly.
Through that generosity.
Exactly. And I'm glad you used that metaphor, because many of us live like this. Tight, clenched, afraid,
Completely.
envious, jealous, covetous. Now, there are two things you cannot do if you're living your life like this. You can't give, and you can't receive.
Yeah.
So that tension has to be resolved so that you can take part in the joy that already exists in the universe. It's like the little voice inside each of us I was speaking about. It's never going to shout and say, David, do this, or Carlton, do this. It's simply going to say, this is true and this is not. This is real and this is not. That way, yes. This way, no. So you have to open up. You have to open up your intellect. You have to open up your emotional intellect. There's mental intellect, there's emotional intellect, there's spiritual intellect, and there's physical intellect. Here's something I am learning. What we are physically has at least 2 brains, and maybe more. Now, I didn't use that term earlier, but we all know that there's a brain in this skeleton, this bone structure up here. But this is a brain too, the viscera. And those are the 2 engines of our existence. That's where it's like a battery. And the 2 polar opposite ends are connecting with each other.
And there's so much proof and evidence to what you're saying in almost every spiritual system that you can think of.
Yeah.
Like, I'm literally seeing the chakra. Like, Jada, I'm literally, like, I'm thinking about you because you're who I learned this from. But, like, I'm literally thinking about the throat, that, like, from the crown all the way to the bottom. And I'm like, oh, there are all these pools or brains within our body that are actually controlling the function. Boom, boom.
And I thought about the 7 major chakras, and I thought, no, don't go there.
You know, they'll go down the deep end.
Right. You'll lose them real quick.
We'll be on another zodiac bend, and, you know.
That's right. Listen. No, they'll have to book you out for 2 hours next time. We'll make sure we get it in. Well, you know, and I think we're even seeing it right now, just sitting in here, right, in this space, and how we've moved with you over this last few hours, but you just move with a grace and a charisma that just kind of comes naturally, clearly, because you're not really fighting to be or present as anything necessarily except what you are.
Right,
exactly. We can tell that. What do you feel like, among other things, like looking in the mirror and how you're talking to yourself and how we should be talking to ourselves? What's something else that you sort of just keep tucked away in a boot, a wallet, just something, a message, philosophy that's really carried you to this point?
One must live without expectations. Now, I don't mean to say that you shouldn't want the results of your efforts. But we so often get caught up in attempting to make the right decision, when indeed, many people are stymied. I gotta make the right decision. Did I make the right decision? Was that a wrong decision? When indeed, it is not the decision that is as important as how you deal with the consequences of whatever the decision is that you make.
Gotta deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was a child here in Baltimore, looking up at the sky, thinking that these cumulus clouds were tangible, and I couldn't wait for the day that I would be able to go up in an airplane and touch them. So the first time I had a flight in an airplane is when I did my junior year abroad, and the grant, right, paid for all those kinds of expenses. You fly to and I did it in Denmark, right? So I'm very excited. I'm 20 years old now, and I'm excited about going up in a plane for the first time.
Bright eyes.
Yes.
Bushy-tailed.
Oh, please.
Yes, down.
Please. And then we get up, 30,000, 40,000 feet, cruising speed, and there are no clouds. Because we're in it. Right? Your perspective changes immediately. Right. Now, what did I learn from that? Problems are clouds. As long as you avoid them, they will grow and they will seem tangible. When you approach them, you will learn that they're porous. And you can walk right through them.
There's so much fear in front of that, right?
Yeah.
Like naturally, my immediate response was fear, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy how you really have to work through something, though, right? To position yourself in, just charge through it.
Yeah.
That's a life's work.
That dark abyss you were talking about, right? That sent me, right? Like this idea of confronting your demons,
All of the religions of the world begin with the dark abyss. Now, how the chaos, K-A-O-S, that lives in the dark abyss, how that becomes order, is expressed differently among the many religions. But every religion starts with the void. And some individual or multiple gods speak order out of the dark chaos. Right. In the beginning there was the void. In the beginning there was...
in Christian...
The Word.
The Word, thank you.
Thank you.
No. In the beginning there was... The second part of the sentence is, and the earth was void. So what's the first part of it?
And there was darkness.
Darkness, yes. And it's that darkness that is the abyss.
And then they call us black. Okay.
But wait a minute, we are the abyss.
Yeah.
And white people are perched capriciously on the precipice of us. They're filled with so much guilt that they cannot they cannot receive that challenge about jumping because they think it's punishment or evil waiting for them.
It's the end.
Yeah.
Too, right? It's this thing that is threatened
Yeah.
as the end. Too.
Right.
I'm so interested. This is not on the list. I'm
Sure.
going off script.
All right. I love it.
But I'm just so interested to know, you speak about so many different spiritual practices and like allude to so much just for folklore and other cultures, and I'm just so curious as to like what your own exploration of spirituality has been like.
It's very much like that bit I spoke about Thomas Merton. It's been solitary. It's been without expectation. And because of that, I have different devotionals that I use during the day. One of them is that one about going to the mirror, that sort of thing. But I also use a different devotional if I'm inside than I do when I'm outside.
Okay.
Because it's so obvious that the outdoors is a force greater than I. So I concede to that. And I say to the wind, and I say to the air, and I say to fire, and I say to earth, thy will be done.
That's your outside proverb.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was it Thomas Merchant where you started with collecting the ways that you speak?
Didn't start with Thomas Merchant. It started with looking at my 5 brothers and 5 sisters. And how not at peace they were with their lives. And how they could not figure out how to achieve peace. But of course, they were following such a traditional modus operandi. They weren't taking any risks. The men were going into the armed forces. The women were getting married at a young age, as opposed to understanding that falling in love is an illusion if you haven't first fallen in love with yourself. I know that sounds crazy, but it's so true.
I think it's sounding less and less crazy to our generations.
I think
younger
it's
generations.
difficult to hold,
It is.
maybe, and like apply.
Yeah.
You know, like what does it look like, especially as a black person, especially as a black queer person, add in whatever other marginalization on top of it that we know we all have.
Right.
How do you find how to love yourself through all of that when there's not a model for it? Which is why I feel like you are so beautiful, because you offer that.
But you're not going to find the model. You have to create the model.
And we hate being told that.
Oh.
Right. Create them.
Well, and you started off with I'm paraphrasing, but we're all different. We're all beautiful.
Right.
And you also said we were all different.
Right.
And that really buys into that. It's like, how can somebody be your model of loving yourself when we're all on such an individualistic journey?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we were all seekers.
Mm-hmm.
We were all seekers. But the important word that you use is journey. We are seekers who are addicted to the destination. And that is not what's important. It is the journey that's important. That's where all the knowledge is anyway.
You the oldest, youngest sibling?
Number 9 of 11.
Number 9 of 11.
Yeah, so I had many opportunities to look and say, so-and-so is doing such and such, and it's miserable. Why doesn't so-and-so stop doing such and such and see if the misery goes away? So that's the lesson I'm learning. If I ever feel miserable, I'm going to look at what's causing the misery and get rid of that.
Absolutely.
So that if what you are thinking does not make you feel good, stop thinking that. Think something else.
We have a really powerful tool in the imagination, right?
Yeah.
As creatives, as artists.
Yeah.
So let's tap more into that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why you have to love yourself first, because otherwise what you're doing is buying into a quid pro quo conditional relationship. I'll do this if you do that. I'll love you if you love me. No, I'll love me.
Anyway.
But that's it. That's the end of it. I'll
Period.
love.
Yep.
Yeah, period. I'll love me. Now you take a number and go to the end of the queue.
How long is your queue?
The queue's miles long.
Oh, it has to be. Has to be. Has to be.
It's continents long.
Okay.
Yeah, I would be remiss to not mention this. We teach a course in the classroom, we being Birmingham Black Repertory Theater Collective. We have a theater that is doing programming in the schools, and we do a Black theater history timeline. And one of the videos that we show is this really terrible and only bootleg we have of you in this commercial of The Wiz. And I which leads me to say, you've been a part of the Black theater canon since the canon been canoning, okay? And so I'm interested in what are like some moments in Black theater history that really stand out to you, or like some Black theater makers throughout your life that you have collaborated with that you just want to love on and like shout out and maybe really stand out to you.
I have to go back to the small voice that lives in the viscera. I must have been 9 years of age in Baltimore, and on Pennsylvania Avenue at Dolphin Street, there used to be the Royal Theater. It's where the statue of Billie Holiday stands now. That used to be where the Royal Theater was. A beautiful dark Art Deco theater that had been ruined because there was no money to care for it, and eventually urban renewal came in and tore it down. It's like, oh no. That was part of the cultural spine of Baltimore. It's where I saw my first Motown review.
Wow.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
You haven't heard Wow yet. My first Motown review had Smokey. He wasn't separated from them, but the Miracles. the Supremes, the Impressions, Little Stevie Wonder, the Marvelettes, Mary Wells.
Just that alone, right?
Yeah, I mean,
the room can breathe.
right. No one was a star, but they were all crazy good.
Completely.
But the point I'm making is, you could go into the Royal Theater for 25 cents, and it was continuous. You go in at 9 o'clock and you can stay until 9 p.m.
The whole day, if you
Yeah.
want. All right.
And we did. On
All right,
Saturdays.
let's spend some time.
On Saturdays. And we had what we called newsreels, black and white, and it was all about how America and the Allies won the Second World War. It was all about that. This is in the 50s. And then we had coming attractions, which we call trailers now. And then there was a feature film. And the feature film, more often than not, was Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers.
Okay.
That kind of thing. And then one portentous Saturday, the feature film was Cabin in the Sky. Do you know Cabin in the Sky?
You know, through the zeitgeist, yes, but not like I've sat.
Like, know what it is, but
Yeah.
have not consumed it.
Well, I'm 9 years old, and Cabin in the Sky comes on, black and white. And in it are Ethel Waters, Lena Horne, Louis Armstrong, Eddie Rochester Anderson, Bill Bailey, the Duke Ellington Orchestra, Stephen Fetchit, Mantan Moreland.
My God. Yeah, what do you do?
Right?
Yeah.
And John Bubbles, who his character's name was either Domingo Johnson or Domingo Jackson. And it's all about Ethel Waters' character, Petunia, who has to save her common-law husband, Little Joe, who's Eddie Rochester Anderson, from going to hell because he's been fooling around with Georgia Brown, who's Lena Horne. Right?
Mess.
From John. From the casting.
And the badass is John Bubbles, who was the muse for the Gershwin brothers to create Sporting Life for Porgy and Bess.
Wow.
Right.
Okay.
So you know what kind of guy. He's tall, he's lean.
Yes.
He comes into the tavern resplendent in white, a bowler cocked on his head, diamond pinky rings, a walking stick, 3-piece vest, the gold chain, the pocket watch, the whole thing.
To the nines.
Yes. And he does this unbelievable dance across the counter of the tavern, up a spiral staircase, and to my 9-year-old head, he was like consumed in the clouds, like an annunciation. And that little small voice said to me, Andre, that's what you're going to do.
Wow. And the moment was created.
And I said, okay. You know, like, yes, that's what I want to do. If you believe within your heart. After that, it's just a matter of keeping your eye on the prize.
You always have something to take it back to.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah.
Even in this moment. watching you resummon and conjure that memory.
Right.
Crystalline time, place, color of the suits to the. Who's doing that? I can't do that for yesterday. So
storyteller.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. The and again, that blessing of abundance from the cornucopia that indubitably had my name on it. This is, Andre, this is for you. Now I could have said, no, it ain't. You know, and just let go of it. But I believe that voice. Andre, you're going to do that.
That's right.
Yes, I am.
Yes, you did.
Yes.
That's true.
My last question, and then David, I can kick it over to you to take us out with our last view, was just, honestly, it's very casual. How was London? How is London? You having a good time?
The most recent time?
Yes, yes.
That was brutal. Now, brutal doesn't necessarily have negative connotations, but it was an example of getting to the top of one mountain and looking up and seeing the bottom of the next. We had created Hadestown at the National Theatre in London in 2018. And this is now 2025. And through all of those years, we tasted the idea of filming it, immortalizing it, participating in royalties and all that sort of stuff. And by 2022, all of the original cast members had left.
Gone, yeah.
So we were thinking, oh, well, that ain't going to happen. And then October of last year, the producers reached out to us, not to us, to our agents, and said, this is what we're trying to do. We went into negotiations. Once we all agreed that we wanted to do it, it was 1 week of rehearsal.
Wow.
1 week of rehearsals.
And you'd been out of that role for
3 years.
3 years.
Almost 3 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
But there's the question. This is what you wanted to do. Here's the opportunity. Do it. It was brutal. We worked 13 hours a day.
For the entire week?
Yeah.
And did you feel like when you actually, whatever the opening night specifically was, right, the reopening, I guess it would be.
Yeah, and we didn't have enough. See, here's the other thing. You know, this is what's so wonderful about art.
Yeah.
You have to do it on its own standards. We did not have an opening night. We had a first performance. Because every performance was filmed.
Every single one?
Every one.
Because I thought it was just the 3. Wow, that just sounds...
No. That's the 3 that had an invited audience.
Got it.
For filming.
Got it.
But they filmed every performance.
Because you have to choreograph all that filming.
Yeah.
Wow.
Continuity is a bitch.
When you're filming its own standalone piece of art at this point, right? Yeah.
And it isn't like, oh, I'm going to take it easy on this time that I sang this song. I'm going to mark it. No. Because every time you do it might be the one.
It's that yes and mentality.
Right.
We're going to get it this time, actually. Like, that's my best, right? Completely.
Right.
What Debbie Allen say? And now's where you start paying and sweat.
Yes.
And we got to the end of it just a week ago Tuesday.
That's right. It's real recent.
That was the conclusion, but that wasn't the reward. The reward is that while I was there, I booked the film.
Right.
So now I'm going
That's right.
back.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Uh-huh.
Right. I worked my ass off. Here. You did the right thing, so this trinket is for you,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Absolutely. Do you have a big dream of continuing to do things in London? Does that feel right for you? Or are you about to see?
I'm about to see. I'm about to see because it's the flip side of the coin. Because the British come here
Yeah.
and work like mofos. How many times have you seen a character and you thrill to the work, and then they do an interview on television and they're talking like, "What? I thought you were the guy who did Dr. Martin Luther King." I can't think of his name now.
Not in Mountaintop.
Selma.
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 I'm not going to think of it right off the top of my
Right.
head. Do you know?
No.
No. Okay.
As-
The whole
as-
room don't know. Well, because I was thinking John Michael Hill.
No. But English as Bangers and Mash.
David Owoye.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
and it's different. Yeah. Black English culture is just different than here. Completely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
So
Yeah.
that sort of divide, that cultural barrier,
Right.
in a way, right, can really make you feel
Right.
like, yeah. You know, I think it would be super interesting if we, because I had a couple of questions about I mean, obviously you showcase your style today, and this sort of unapologetically chic-tailored moment, right, to the tapered shoot, hello, right? And I keep thinking and going back to the sort of like fever dreamish, hair inspired costume that you wore. And I know we mentioned the Wiz earlier, but the Wiz from, 93 and the boots, right? And I saw Jellicle Ball in New York. I was very happy to be able to see that.
You
and
did.
you're obviously in Queen Jeans, just lion's mane and this two-toned like skirt that seemed like you had pants underneath too. It was legendary. It really was. It was incredible. And I just wonder, can you even pick a favorite costume or piece you've ever worn?
Yes.
Yeah?
But you wouldn't know about it.
Tell us about it.
It's the show that brought me to New York
Okay.
in 1973.
Mm.
I was working in Chicago with the Organic Theater Company and experimental theater, where DIY, Chicago invented DIY theater. Do it yourself.
Wow.
You find a hole in the wall, you clean it up, right? You make your own costumes, build your own set, rack your own tickets, make your own posters,
All the things.
and whatever money comes in, you split however many ways people are in the company.
Yeah.
And that keeps you dedicated to your craft.
It's grassroots.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Right. And then an enterprising young producer saw the show. It's called Warp, WARP, and said, this show should go to New York. And of course, we're like,
Cute, yes.
Let's go.
Dollar signs in the eyes.
Right. It was called Warp, the world's first science fiction play in episodic form. It was in 3 episodes. So we opened episode 1 in Chicago, and the folks were like, "This is the best thing since
Oh yeah, it was
sliced
tea.
bread."
Okay.
And then we opened episode 2 and played 1 and 2 in Repertory. And then we opened episode 3 and played that in Repertory. And it was the episode, when all 3 episodes were running, is when this producer thought, wow, this could work in New York. It didn't. Well,
The bubble pop, yeah, that's real.
You know,
yeah.
the New York cognoscenti thought of us as dirty foot hippies from Chicago. Anyway, it all worked out because it got me to New York, and that's where I wanted to be. That's the way I'm looking at it. The organic theater company went back to Chicago, and it still exists. The costume I wore in episode 2, people are still talking about.
Okay. Come on, talk of the town.
Right. It's that one.
It's this
That's
one.
what I clicked on.
My God, the netting.
It's cool.
The
Yeah,
ponytail.
You got it.
I got it.
Right.
It's so stunning.
Is this a headpiece, or was that how your hair was styled?
Now, check it out. It's 1973, right? The man who's known for a bald head, Michael Jordan, is probably 7 years old. But André De Shields has shaved his head
Before.
and left a 4-inch lock,
Got it.
to which we had an 18-inch fall.
Like sewn in, yeah.
Yeah.
You better had a bad bitch ponytail.
That's right. What else do you expect? You know,
You see it.
you see it right now.
Right. Right.
I love that. I don't actually know what I thought you were going to tell me. I had no idea it was going to be something like that.
Yeah. Well, this is how I came to New York.
Yeah. What an entry.
And people used to walk across the street to get let's cross the street. And I thought, now wait a minute. New York is supposed to be the crucible of self-expression, you know? And that was 1973. So I learned my lesson. I grew my hair in, right? That was February 1973. And in August of 1974, I was rehearsing The Wiz.
Wow. And just like that, right?
Yeah.
The alignment of it all.
Yeah.
You never know what's on the other end of that next mouth.
But it was
No,
that
not at
guy.
Mm.
He didn't have a bald head, and he wasn't wearing fishnet wings.
Yeah.
But I took that energy and got The Wiz.
Because everything that you do is, in a way, an encapsulation or a time capsule, right? Or of a moment of you.
I couldn't have said it better.
Okay. Well, I'm glad it was said.
Because I won't say most, but a lot of actors, I will say most. Because most actors train, and they all come up with this cookie cutter approach to acting, which is, I'm going to search in the character something that I can play.
Right.
I flipped that on its head for me, right? I'm going to search in me something that the character can fulfill. You know, so when I did King Lear, for instance, it was like, people were like, what? I said, yeah. You know?
Yeah.
You ain't seen nothing yet. It's not going to be in, because we didn't have this technology when I was in Chicago, but I did a thing with the Godzilla Rainbow Troupe called Samson and Delilah. There was one Samson, 3 Delilahs, and I was the leather Delilah.
That's the character name? Leather Delilah?
No.
Oh.
Each one, Delilah. But you saw their different approaches to Samson by what they were wearing. Right? One was in flowing gossamer, Greco-Roman gown. Right? Right.
Yeah.
You know, another one was an innocent maiden. And then there was a leather Delilah.
Period.
I'm filling in the gaps.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Spicy Delilah.
That's right.
Well, the leather Delilah is the one who cut his hair. Shaved him.
Oh, wow.
You know, Samson, you cut his hair.
In the chair.
Shaved the whole body.
Yeah. Wow.
He ain't gonna have a hair on you when I finish with you. But there are no photographs of that. Well, they probably are, but they're not, you know.
They're not archived beautifully.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely. We just have a couple of minutes left, which always feels, both thank God we get to have some rest, you get to rest, but also how do you, end a conversation where I think it's really hard for us to feel like we can just let some guards down and really talk about, just get into it, because I'm really glad we talked about spirituality, and we really talked about some deep-seated memories that are sort of formative, right, and sort of making connections in between all of that. What's something that you feel like you don't usually get to share in moments like this? You seem like somebody who's about to share everything, but I'm curious, what's something that you're normally not asked?
Well, I don't share it. There's some things that I must curate for my memoir.
Second time I'm hearing it about a book.
Yeah, but that's because someone else mentioned it. I didn't mention it.
And now the seed's in your head.
No. No, which is why I didn't respond to it. Because if you say, yes, I'm working on a book, then the question...
You gotta release
what? No.
Yeah. You'll release it on your own time.
And the best way to respond to questions like that is do not respond.
And that's game.
Okay. Because I feel like we have to be open books these days. And I'm just really, I feel affirmed to hearing another closed book. Because I'm very...
Read what I want you to read.
Exactly. Thank you. I'm going to show you the pages. I'm going to bookmark the pages for you. You can flip through.
Wow.
That's all I got.
Well, this is how we end the conversation.
Yeah.
Check out New York Magazine on April 7th.
New York Magazine on April 7th.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what you want the people to know.
Mm-hmm.
Period. I like that.
Yeah. Okay. Is this like the physical? We need to go and we need to grab one. We need to rip it open. Have all our friends around.
Yeah.
It's online? Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Make sure we get a copy.
Right. That's right.
Make sure you get several copies.
Okay.
Because you're going to want to share it. You're going to gift it.
I already do. Yes. Yes. And when this is up in the SETC magazine too.
Okay.
I want you to be able to share that too. Yes. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with us, Andre.
There is no one like you. There has never been anyone like you. There shall never be anyone like you. Therefore, know yourself. Be yourself.